Greetings and salutations, my friend. I know what you're thinking. What movie is this? It's brand new. It is on Peacock. So if you have Peacock, it is free. If you have other outlets to get it, it is free. And I know, you've been waiting for this. If you wanted a hardcore, heavy political drama within days away from the midterm elections here in the USA, this is the film for you. If you wanted divisive, partisan talking points in your entertainment, condescending tones and attitudes about things that you may believe in, this is the film for you. It's right there. It's directed by lady, Amy Rice, by the people, the election of Obama. That's right. The person that brought you by the people, the election of Barack Obama, brought you the independent just in time for the midterm. Aren't you excited? Aren't you excited? Well, I'm here to tell you that at least this banner is representative of the film, because this film is about Jodie Turner-Smith. Many of the ads and posters and things like that have John Cena front and center with the flag behind him. And yes, he is the candidate in the film, but he is hardly in a large faction of this film. It is entirely her film, and it's about her and her journey, and everything else is secondary to that. Okay? That's what this is. Now, let's talk about the film. The Independent. It literally is just a set in real time. It's sort of like a presidential election, not a midterm. So it's presidential, and they cut in real time as though it's news, right? It's a week before the election. It's a 3-horse race, right? You have 3 candidates. You have here's what they did. Generic, vanilla, forgettable Democratic president. Could care less about him. He is not relevant, at all. Female candidate will be the first female president, Republican, literally like a Tennessee Republican, completely self-inserted. They inserted Marsha Blackburn, basically, played by Dowd. Oh, by the way, she's the lady that played the evil Aunt Lydia from Handmaid's Tale. If you think that's on the nose, just keep going. So yes, that actress is center stage, Jodie Turner-Smith. She's the star. If you don't know who she is, she played the Black Anne Boleyn, because there was a historical Anne Boleyn. That's who played Anne Boleyn. Okay. And there's a quick little intro, and you cut to this news guy. His name is Nick Booker. He's like the journalist, the hardcore lion of the Fourth Estate. Boy, they're not full of themselves in this film. So it's very on the nose, right? There's a January 6th reference. There is this big analogy about, it's like this big fiery speech, and then we get to 5 months earlier, right? Almost all of the film takes place before this moment. Brief introduction, go backwards. And you have the news about, what are we going to do about this? What are we going to do with that? It's lesser of two evils candidate stuff. Then you have the newspaper thread. So here's what we've got. You have a political horse race that's over here with this independent candidate who throws his hat in the ring. He's sort of like a high-profile, former Olympian, military kind of guy, John Cena. You have generic vanilla, presidential candidate that's not going to win. And then this GOP female who's a firebrand, divisive, comes across as being conservative. Then you have the newspaper and the journalists who are completely broke. They got to lay people off. They mock Fox, InfoWars right out of the gate. They mock West Virginians. And the editor of this paper talks about that they are the elite. Like, this was not even like, I don't even know what kind of I don't know. It's a lot. It's so on the nose with glorifying and deifying the journalists. It's crazy, right? But the film is really about Alicia. She has a sister who's going to be shipped off to the military. It's just a contrivances so they can have a conservatives will always take you to war comment and remark throughout the film. Then her dad has cancer. That comes up as a big drop. It's big, like, awkward thing. Now, I will say at least it makes the film feel like she's a real person going through real struggles, but it's also just a contrivances to have healthcare reform comments. They can name drop, they have like, George Floyd references, things like that, excuse to dog on Nixon. I mean, it just never stops. It's just insane. And I know what you're thinking. It's going to be like a political thing about who's campaigning against who and who's running. No, it's not about that at all. It's about Eli. She's got her nose on this story about the lottery where there's money missing because in a recession, lotteries make more money because more people are desperate and they're just willing to throw the crapshoot, and the money's not there. And she thinks because she stumbles across the wires just come across because she constantly says this, literally they repeat themselves 3 or 4 times about this is money stolen from black and brown people in West Virginia. Don't know how many black and brown kids are in West Virginia that would be cheated by this lotto money, but she's on a mission. And she does get she gets a kind of like a partnership with this Nick guy. He's the main character played by Brian Cox. He's like the old school New York Times, Washington. There's a lot of jibber jabber with him. And he agrees, kind of like takes her under his wing to sort of like mentor her. And because she's treated, it's all the cliches, right? You have, white douchebag journalist guy, New York boss guy who's like, yeah, it's a good idea. It gives it to someone else. You have all that kind of stuff. And Eli's really giddy about this opportunity that kind of falls in her lap. And she's dating this dude named Lucas. Lucas turns out to be a part of the John Cena for president campaign. I don't even, his last name is Sterling. It's Nate Sterling. I'm probably just going to call him the John Cena president. John Cena does not have to act. He just shows up and talks. Like there's no acting at all from John Cena. And it's not even bothered. Like, so there's this character, which is that dude that was the lead on 30 something back in the day. And he's basically like this lobbyist, and he's kind of like linked to the money, right? And you have sort of like this thing about, well, if we follow the money and it's got to go to a presidential campaign of some kind, she thinks it's going to the Republican. And that's kind of the first phase of the film. So this is all the first 30 minutes. And I want to share this one scene with you because it is, this is how on the nose the film gets. If this is your thing, then you're going to love this film. Like, I will be honest. If this is your thing, you're going to love this film. That's all I can tell you. Right? So let me put this in here. So this is the journalist, Nick. He is very ideological. He tries to come across as like words of wisdom and that sort of thing, but it's very lectury. It doesn't really work very often. We'll kind of see along the way that his character at least evolved.
A bug-eyed virtual vigilante running a bullshit blog and a libelous YouTube channel out of her parents' basement.
Tom Mayfield was in.
So that's the jab against YouTubers and independent journalists. Yeah. The bug-eye weirdo in their parents' basement on YouTube saying whatever they want to say, whatever. I found that literally to be the way I have been treated in my life, and that's the way they think of you. You are so beneath them. They think of you as like having 2 heads, inbred. I mean, you should be eliminated from society to this people. That's how they treat you. This film is so revealing of how narcissistic and self-centered they are. They think that they are the ones seeking out the truth, and yet we have so many reasons to not believe these people. And so Eli is so ideological. She's convinced that this is a thing, and she goes and tries to recruit this black PR person because they're black, so they're going to see eye to eye. And she kind of doesn't want to be involved, but she kind of steers towards a lead. And her solution is to literally like break in to that person's office and steal the evidence. Now, I will say, at least Nick freaks out when that part happens. But let me try to get the next scene to queue up while I'm talking to you about this, because it was really, really, this is how on the nose they get at times. Let me get this right. Okay, I'm ahead just a few seconds. So let me go back just a little. Let me go back 10, This is pretty close. Let me go to this scene to give you another sampling of how on the nose they decided they would get. He tends to be the mouthpiece for the leftist elite that's articulate, because they want to sound smarter than they are by sounding articulate. So this is his thing here. Get this.
Narcissist with no experience turns delusion.
Too far. Let me go back just a
So
tad.
again, I ask you, why? Because I suck at golf.
So there's the jokes about, why are you running? Why are you doing this? You're completely unqualified. You're just an athlete. You're whatever. And this guy's like, he's super charming. He's energized the voting base. He's done all these different things, right? So here's the comeback.
We've seen what happens when a narcissist with no experience turns delusions of grandeur into reality. So you tell me why this isn't anything more than a vanity run.
Look, I think it's only fair.
I wonder who he could be thinking of and who the writer was thinking of when they wrote that. That's how on the nose this is. If you wanted something to motivate you because you wanted to understand or be reminded how awful people are towards people that disagree with them, this film is loaded with left-wing talking points. They try to paint the John Cena character as sort of like being anti-establishment or outside the norm. He is nothing than the far left candidate, right? There's the Democrat. He's completely right. The Democrat doesn't even matter. Then you have the right-wing candidate, right? Marsha Blackburn, basically. Aunt Lydia. This dude, John Cena's character, is anti-drug, NRA, all sorts of crazy, and there's all these little comments about, you'll peel off votes and the Republican will win, and you'll do this. And Eli, in order to steal those documents, hides in the bathroom and then steals these documents. Anyway, she believes that they should be able to do anything they want to stop the election because the Republican is, if she wins, she's such a threat. There's comments about it wouldn't set us back a year or 10 years. It set us back 100 years. The hyperbole is off the chain, right? There's constantly like sexist remarks against her. There's things like this. They have cutaways, so you'll feel bad for her because the dad is so sick. And she continues to try to find these different leads about the lottery money. And they used a catering service to kind of transfer the excess money through them to his campaign. Oh, I'm sorry, that was a spoiler alert, because at this point in the film, you still think it is the Republican. The twist comes because they try to pin things down. There's like a debate, and about being the first woman president, and he tries to turn it around about, it's not about being the first woman president. You're not the right woman, right? And it's like, you denied climate change, and my cabinet will have 50% of women. I mean, he's so far left. And this movie is contrived for you to hate Republican women, like an independent candidate if he's left enough, not like the Democrat establishment, like this. You want to like the lefty one because he's charismatic and he's funny and he's handsome and all those kinds of things. But he's really the corrupt criminal. He's really the villain, right? And that everything is all connected, and that the 30-something dude is really a former Republican Reagan guy and now is in the Sterling camp. And everything is all, colluded, right? I was going to play another clip, but I don't need to, because it's just like, if she wins, Penny will be at war. Your sister will be at war for like 10 years and the earth will fry and things are nuts and people are liars. We had weapons of mass destruction and the housing market and the election's been rigged. I mean, this is insane. Like, this is like fan fiction, leftist porn. I couldn't believe it. Anyway. You have her and Lucas fight. All this stuff's happening. And reality is this. the big twist comes down to where Nick shows up and puts the John Cena guy on notice. We have all this evidence against you. We trying to figure out if you did or not. You need to look us in the eye and tell. He does the look in my eye. I have a built-in BS meter, right? And I forget. Oh, because that's when. So Alicia finds out that her dad actually passes, right? And the problem is she leaves her computer open. So douchebag guy finds the article, which the newspaper boss guy sees it, thinks it's him, and he gets fired because, of course, newspaper guy's boss, the corporation, fire him for that story because we have to bury that story because politics is more important and the right is so corrupt and whatever. So anyway, they move quickly to have the publishing of the article. She's going to do the right thing, and she hands Nick the edited article literally in a little flash drive. It's like, I have the weight of the world in the palm of my hand in this moment of truth. And it's like they're so narcissistic. Oh my God, this movie. I can't tell you how many of them are just like this. It's so insane to me. And they're going to go start their own paper because of this, like The Independent. Get it? It wasn't really about John Cena. It was their newspaper because it's really a movie about the journalist, not the politics. Oh, it's like, oh, I see what you did there. You clever. Nobody's clever. No. It is holier than thou nonsense. It is just awful. There's Patriot music at the end, like there's some sort of heroes, and we don't even know what happens, which, by the way, was a stupid ending. This film was weird to prep for because not everybody was credited and stuff. So I actually had to research some things to figure out who everybody was, so I could try to do better. So I ended up seeing a review, and I kid you not, this was what the Hollywood Reporter wrote. And if you don't think the Republican is a villain, listen to this. Ann Dowd's character was as tough but pragmatically savvy Republican senior senator from Tennessee, parentheses, think Marsha Blackburn with a backbone and a brain, unparentheses, aiming to be the first woman in the Oval Office. Get that? This character does nothing. And there's no evidence that she's smart. There's no evidence that she's savvy. She's pushing through a bill at the last minute, which is about campaign finance. And there's all these jabs about it being for the big money. The rich guys can buy elections. And I'm like, the references are insane. Like there's a Wasilla, Alaska reference, which is clearly a Sarah Palin reference. There is a comment about killing the John Lewis Voting Rights Act. Like they let Eli, because Jodie's a fine actress. She does a fine job, but they have this character. She is so over the top girl boss. She could never be wrong. Everything always falls her way. Everything kind of always falls in place. It's so nauseating and irritating. This film is so unbearable. It is, I don't know, if you are a diehard Democrat and you just want to nod your head along about how this is what life is really like and this is how things really go, then this is the movie for you. I actually thought that they were going to try to have a conversation about an independent candidate and it would be like a anti-third party candidate. That's what the bias would be, like trying to keep a person away from the other two parties. And it is that in some ways, but it's more like showcasing the differences of, putting this one in a positive light, negative light, whatever. So I don't know. That's my take on The Independent. It just dropped on Peacock and you can catch it. You watch it. You tell me what you think. I don't know. Or maybe I watched it so you didn't have to. Take it however you want. I am Pops. Thank you so much.